Welcome to Marketplace Live. Let's defy gravity.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Ed Diver. I'm the Chief Information Officer for Digital Realty. I'd like to welcome you today to join our session called Defying Location. With me is a couple of my friends from BlueJeans, John and Alagu, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. This is Alagu Periyannan, co-founder and CTO of BlueJeans, and now BlueJeans by Verizon, part of the larger Verizon family. And we've had the pleasure to work with Digital Realty and for a while now. Both, we're mutual customers of each other and a great partner during these especially trying and interesting times.
And thanks, Ed, for having me today. John Knightly. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for BlueJeans by Verizon, and it's great to be here with everyone today.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Alagu. Thanks for joining us today. Before we get kicked off here, just a couple logistics in the background. We've got a chat window open for those on the call. So if you have any questions or things that come up during the event, please go ahead and raise those questions, and we'll do our best to get those answered as quickly as we can. So today in our session, we want to dig into this very decentralized world that we've all been operating in as a result of this COVID-19 pandemic. You know, day by day, things are changing rapidly, as all of you know, and we're clearly going to be living in this situation for at least some time to come. So today we want to spend some time just getting into the social and cultural shifts that we're dealing with. And then we'll also talk about some technology strategies as well, things that we should consider on that front. So let's get started. We'll get into the social and cultural topic first. And let me start off by making a few remarks here. At Digital, like a lot of companies, we've had to make some adjustments as we've gone through this as well. Our employees were actually quite well prepared for the pandemic because we're in this data center business, 24/7 business, and we've had some very strong continuity of business operations processes that we've had in place for some time, and we regularly practice those across the organization. But like a lot of companies, there were a few things that popped up that we didn't anticipate. Certainly didn't think about our kids being at home with us every day and trying to do distance learning. A lot of our employees didn't necessarily have space in their homes to accommodate not only maybe a two-income family with both sets of individuals on sessions like this, BlueJeans sessions or other collaboration technologies that are out there, along with their kids trying to do distance learning at the same time. And of course, we've also had to manage, not only our own physical well-being around COVID pandemic and wearing masks and, being careful when we're out in public, but we've also had to keep track of the mental health as well, because this has been going on for some time now. And, we sort of coined a term at Digital, living at work, which is what we're all doing these days. And of course, even beyond that, we'd have to think about, when does our workday really start? When does it end? I know at Digital, a lot of our employees are actually more productive, during the COVID pandemic, since we've been dealing with this. And a lot of these collaboration platforms have really helped us, be as productive as we can. But some of our employees are also experiencing some burnout. And I think that's really important for us to keep that in mind as we kind of work through this scenario and hopefully come out the other end of the pandemic, next year. So John and Alagu, can you comment a little bit on the trends and some of the impacts that you guys have seen within BlueJeans and Verizon, and maybe some of what your customers have been experiencing as well would be really helpful for our audience.
Yeah, so I can sort of say a few words that then John would add to it. I know our marketing team especially, has done some surveys, and we have some interesting data on that front. But I can tell you just personally, it's been quite a change. Even though, as you said, Ed, we've all used to working remotely. I have teams across the world. We're on calls at night, during the day, even before any of this pandemic. But despite all of that, it's very significantly different in the last 6 months. Firstly, having both you and your significant other or spouse, working from home, and your kids also sort of working from home. I think everybody's had to take out their own little territory, like in the home, and I got relegated here to the dining room, and I remember like the first couple of months sitting on the wooden chair in the dining room, and it's starting to get a little tiring, invested a little bit in better sort of chairs and some tables and some risers and that kind of stuff, and so that's all working out. But we are certainly spending a lot more time in calls, and as you said, just longer hours than we're foregoing the commute, but it's easily taken up in terms of more meetings. So we are, from a team perspective, we are encouraging our employees to make sure they get the breaks and get their sort of exercise and possibly even take time off. Like even if you're going to sit at home or do a backyard vacation, we are definitely after the first 3-4 months of everybody just sort of having that sort of adrenaline rush of just working through this pandemic. I mean, then the sort of it all sets in, and you've got to sort of give yourself a breather. So, but John, I'll let you add some more to that.
Sure. I mean, it's interesting both on the personal front, as you shared, Alagu, as well as the work front. And on the personal front, I found that the good news is if my day job doesn't work out over the long term, I can have a second career in tech support, because I've been helping my 2 high school students on their various video conferencing calls, and my spouse and everything else. So there's always a silver lining on that front. But one of the things that's been great on the family front is just, without everyone scheduled and at schools and at sports and everything, that ability to unplug as a family, go for a walk, actually speak to your teenagers once in a while has been great. On the work front, what's been interesting is just seeing how this plays out for different people who are at different stages of their career. So we've got some people that are early in their careers who really kind of want and need and hunger for that being together in the office and getting the check-ins, someone, popping your head in a conference room for 5 minutes just to check in on a team, or catching someone in the cafeteria or whatever. I think I realized well into the pandemic here that the folks that are earlier in their careers may be more isolated than you think. They're used to being very social, but they might be alone in an apartment someplace. And you actually have to work harder to involve them and pull them in, whether it's with happy hours, or we just did our Halloween contest last week over BlueJeans. And so there's a little bit of an extra burden or onus on the leaders to find those ways to reach out and foster that kind of that teamwork and that sense of community, because otherwise it's just the scheduled meetings, right? And you might miss those with the people outside your direct, your calendar, who are in the calendar that day. The other thing that's been interesting is just we have done, as Alagu mentioned, some survey work of our customers. And what we saw was sort of this kind of, the first quarter of the pandemic, people were kind of generally optimistic that they could get through on the work side. And then there became a fatigue period sort of over the summer. And what we're seeing in the fall here is that people are, the sense of being more productive is climbing back up again. And maybe that's, Alagu, as you said, because they've gotten the more comfortable chairs or the right video cams, or they're getting the kind of what that cadence should be, whether it's check-ins or whether it's unplugging entirely. People are starting to get a sense that, hey, we can make this work and we can work more productively. So that's been an interesting thing to see from the customer side.
So John, one question I had is, and we've experienced this at Digital as well, we have a lot of folks that are really working on some large projects, in my group in particular. And in those larger team projects, we would frequently get together, in New York or Dallas or Chicago or London or someplace around the world and bring the entire team together. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is, for that sort of off color, if you will, sort of collaboration that happens outside the general meetings and things that happen. How are you guys seeing some of your customers accomplish that? I mean, this has been an area that's been a bit challenging for us as well. We've done the Halloween parties and the happy hours and the, social events that we've attempted to do, but there's no substitute for that hallway conversation that sometimes, where that nugget of information comes out when someone's trying to solve a problem or work towards something with the team, that it seems really challenging to work through those things. You can't really schedule that time, but yet people still have a need to get together in those scenarios. Have you guys seen anything from your customer base that would give our viewers some tips on maybe how to address some of those items?
Well, one of the more unique ones is a company, I can't mention them by name, but they're in the, I guess I'd call it the toy business, and they've created these interesting interactions where they'll actually bring employees in to share their latest creations. They'll even put on plays and musicals for the other employees. So they're really leaning in and saying, we can do this over video conferencing. Let's do it. That's the most creative and sort of the most pushing the envelope, I guess, that I've seen in the customer base. I don't know, Alagu, if you've seen any interesting cases crop up in your discussions.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, listen, we've got to be a little more deliberate about some of this. I mean, I'll give you an example. Just personally, when it comes to skip level interactions that I used to have in the cafeteria or any other places, that is completely gone missing. So I've been very deliberate about reaching out to skip level or even individual engineers on my team, and really reaching out to them and having those conversations. So you've got to do that. But one of the things I've seen some of my teams do, and we used to see some of our customers do this even pre-pandemic, but it's actually increased, is to the extent that you're in a meeting and you want to join more of a formal meeting, people continue to do that. I mean, we're all on back-to-back meetings. But some of the smaller teams have resorted to more of a always-on sort of meeting where the entire team, hangs out for a few hours. Maybe not every day, but so they're doing their own work, but they're just sort of, keeping this meeting open all the time. And it works nicely for smaller teams today. This is an area where we are looking at this use case. I mean, it used to be sort of the water cooler, always on meeting, or people used to call it the hot wall, where they connected multiple offices together and they sort of kept the meeting going 24/7. We are looking at, how we can improve the user experience. I mean, ideally where you want to be is, you should be able to just walk up to somebody who you work with and tap them on the shoulder and have a quick chat. That's not possible with the current meeting platforms. People are sort of improvising in these ways. But this is an area that we are looking at and seeing, what we can do to make that better.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that you bring up on that front, because we've actually practiced some of those very things. Within our company, we've had, like I said, we've had a couple of very large programs and projects that were underway, and we've done exactly that. We've left the BlueJeans app up and running across, multiple locations when we were in the office, and now that everyone's working from home, we've done the same thing. These typical team type meetings that we've had, we left the sessions open even after the meeting ended, and people that had something to contribute afterwards, or if they just wanted to just catch up because they hadn't seen themselves in a while and just sort of check in on the family situation or what might be going on in someone's personal life, it seems like it's really helped. And one place in particular for us where it's made a big difference is we've been doing some hiring as well during the last 8 or 9 months. And one thing that's particularly difficult is if you're a new employee or even a consultant or a contractor joining our company, it's been hard, for folks to assimilate to our culture, et cetera. And it seems like that more interactive sort of, keep the sessions open or just allow for, just more free flowing conversation gives those employees more a sense of belonging. They start to learn about the culture. We kind of have some contests periodically where we dress up, a little bit or have some fun, on the video events. And I think that sort of kept things light and kept things moving along for the employees and consultants and contractors alike. So all these little things, I think make a difference in the end, especially if you're stuck in an apartment somewhere or stuck in your home and, haven't been outside in days because it's raining or the weather is, turning colder like it is now at this time of the year. I think those will all be things that we'll want to take advantage of as we go into the fall.
Yeah, and you've been absolutely right on the new employee onboarding, especially. I mean, I'm seeing more of my team sort of use this approach of having, we used to buddy up a new employee with somebody else, but now it's like the entire team sort of gets on these, 3-hour long, just hang out and help the new person in whatever questions they've got. And we've done that first, at least the first 3 or 4 weeks of the new employee being with the team.
One of the interesting topics on this, we've talked a lot about the employee to employee kind of scenarios, but one of the other things, wearing my marketing hat that I see on the sales and marketing front is we've all had to shift how we talk to customers and prospective customers in this whole period as well. And so where we used to do, probably, 50 or more events a year face to face, right? Even, the event we're on today was probably had a face-to-face component in the past, right? And as a marketer, that's how we interacted. And of course, our sales teams love that as well. They want to meet our customers face-to-face, whether it's over dinner or at an event. And all of that's gone by the wayside. So we've had to find new ways to connect and keep connected and defy location, if you will, with outside our company, not just inside the company. And so, certainly, one of the things that we've seen, and I'll shift to a customer example here, is that customers have had to shift with their business model. And so, one customer that we had was very much of a local business in the city that they're in, and they were able to, kind of say, look, we can't do the local business that's face to face, but we're going to shift and we're going to bring it online. And now they've got customers around the world. They were in Pittsburgh, and that's where all their clientele were. Now they've got clients all over the world. So there's a two sides to it, right? If you can use the digital or the cloud to get you out beyond your normal customer base, it can be good. I'm curious how you're looking at the go-to-market.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring that up because we've actually taken advantage of that. In our business, a lot of our customers, they want to come and see the data center. They want to understand where their infrastructure is going to operate and run from. They want to look at the facility, et cetera. And we've actually gone to virtual events or actual virtual tours, if you will, with the customers. And our customers love it actually because pre-COVID, we would typically see people flying into a location or customers were trying to arrange schedules so that they could come out and do a site tour of the facility. Now we actually just run a live event, and we have a couple of engineers walking through the facility, take them through each of the areas, with a live webcam as they go, and they're able to answer questions interactively as they walk through the data center and really help the customers almost have the same experience as if they were in the facility itself. And it's actually much more convenient for the customer base. And, most importantly, it's a lot safer for everybody because we're not getting on airplanes. We're not up close and personal with people, during those sessions in the data center, but we're able to just run it remotely. So it's been a huge change, if you will, in the way that we market and sell to our customers as well. It's been actually very effective.
Yeah, if you're in sales, right, you're able to probably book more sales meetings in a week than you could if you were getting on an airplane or driving someplace, right? So that's the other silver lining. I think everyone wants some normalcy to return, but while we're in the period we are in, at least there's that upside.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
hey, sorry, go ahead, Elga.
yeah. And I mean, I think this sort of dynamic is playing out in almost every sort of aspect of in different sort of verticals. I mean, we all know how much healthcare, like, has taken off in terms of online and video-based consultation. I mean, just overall, when you were talking about, bringing people to sort of see the data centers, I mean, one of the other dynamics we're seeing is this actually allows an expert in a certain field to be more accessible to people than actually flying out and getting there, right? I mean, so they're able to actually bring in experts from across wherever they're located to weigh in on an issue or an aspect much more easily. But one thing in terms of just defying location, I can tell you, is as all of this was playing out in February and March, we were also in acquisition discussions, to become part of Verizon. And this entire thing was done remotely on BlueJeans. I mean, I did not the last flight I took was, end of January. I haven't been on a plane since, and we did not make it out to New Jersey as part of getting this transaction done. It was entirely done over BlueJeans. And, for something, significant like this, you would never have thought about doing it that way. But, given the circumstances, that's just, one more example of something that absolutely can be done remotely.
Yeah, we actually did an acquisition ourselves earlier this year. We purchased a company in Europe called Interaction, and the transaction actually concluded in March of this year. And since then, we've been working together to integrate our two companies. And interestingly enough, I've never met anyone inside of Interaction in person. I've only met them through this platform. And I'm amazed at how much progress we've made in spite of the time zone differences that we're dealing with. I'm in California. A lot of the Interaction folks are in Amsterdam or London or Germany. And so I'm a good 8-9 hours time zone difference. So in spite of me either having to get up early some days or them stay up a little bit later, than normal, it's actually been very productive, and we've actually accomplished a great deal, between our two companies and looking at synergies and how we could work more closely together. And interestingly enough, one of the very first things we did as we brought the two organizations together is we wanted to make sure that everybody had access to the common platform. So we wanted to make sure everybody had access to BlueJeans in this case, so that we could have these kinds of meetings going forward. And it's been definitely a journey that's a little bit different. And like you, none of us have gotten on an airplane, and yet we've still managed to accomplish the business that we needed to get done and make some very solid progress on that.
Yeah, and Ed, we have our customer advisory board, and I've certainly heard from some of those that all of this is not lost on their CFOs either, as they think about what to do after the pandemic. Do we need all that business travel? And, in fact, how about all that real estate we have? Can we skinny down in some locations, right? So everyone's looking at that. And then from the hiring perspective, hey, I can hire the best talent wherever they are, and maybe even in more cost competitive locations, right? So it's an interesting set of things that are floating around, I think, in people's heads as they plan for what do we do after the pandemic.
Exactly. One other point I'd love to talk about a little bit, and I bring it up because we've been using it internally quite a bit. When we have an outage or an issue, in my team, whether it's an application system is having a problem or we've had an issue with server infrastructure or something across the company, we've used technologies like this for years in the IT world, mostly voice communications in the past, where we would have an open bridge line when we were working an issue or a problem. And since the pandemic, now we've started to open up a video session so that we had engineers and others online. We could share screens and consoles, that go into the details of issues that, that we're having and work that troubleshooting real time like that. on an open session like that. How have some of your customers been using the technology along that same line? Because, during a crisis, whatever it is, whether it's a hurricane or flood or, a technical problem within the environment, it's an amazing set of tools that we now have at our disposal, and almost everyone on the planet has learned how to use this technology. And there's got to be some great examples of others that have taken advantage of this in the market.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there's many operations teams among our customer base use them in that manner. I mean, I can give you an example. I mean, I'll give you our own example, but also, a customer, probably, one of the most popular, software as a service tax tool that all of us use. I mean, they were a customer, and every tax season, I mean, there's war room going on, which is, BlueJeans call that's running literally 24/7 for a month. Actually, that's one of the areas where we had to do a lot of work to make sure that we can actually have a call running for 3 weeks at a time, 4 weeks at a time, with no requirement for you to ever drop the call. I mean, I think that there's other providers that basically make you, you run a call more than 48 hours or something like that. Like, you have to drop it and rejoin. We've actually, done a lot of work to architect the system where you can actually have a single call running, never drops for like 3 weeks at a time. So, those are some changes we made, even prior to COVID. But I can tell you our own example. We started seeing sometime in February, we started seeing a lot of the Asia Pac market, starting to really see the COVID effect. I mean, in fact, John and his team, along with our data science team, put together this map of BlueJeans usage that, and the percentage really went up. And we've actually got an animation. You can go to our website and sort of how you can actually watch the virus move from Asia Pac into Europe and then into North America. And by seeing the percentage increase in traffic of BlueJeans on a sort of weekly basis in February, March, and April. So, we started seeing some of the early effects in February. And then March is when really things here in the North American market, people started sending the workforce home. And we saw, huge increases. During all this time, we were running a war room that was a hybrid sort of physical war room in our California office and people joining from our Bangalore office and people joining from home. When we sent everybody home, I think it was the second week of March, pretty much that war room that used to be sort of a physical plus BlueJeans call went entirely online onto BlueJeans call. So we continue to keep that war room up and running for, that whole, I think the whole month of March and then into April, with people joining. It was a 24/7 room that kept running. I mean, that's the way we were keeping and monitoring, and we were adding capacity on a daily basis. That's what it took, to support the huge traffic increase.
Yeah, it's definitely caused a shift there. Maybe we should do the same. Maybe we should move over into the technology part of the conversation now. I mean, this technology has been around for a while, and we've all gotten much more used to using it, as I commented earlier. What thoughts do you guys have on the innovations that are needed here for the future? I think you touched on a couple, but are there some other things that you think are on the forefront that we should be looking for from providers like yourselves to take advantage of the tool set that you're bringing to the marketplace?
Yeah, I mean, there's several aspects of the technology that we had already invested in that have really sort of come to bear. Whether it's things like large number of participants being able to join a call, or virtual backgrounds, or any of that. We've had a long-standing partnership with Dolby in terms of our audio technology and noise cancellation and all of that. That's always been, much better than what the industry had to offer. But even in an area like that, we are seeing much more rapid need for innovation. So a good example on the audio side is, given all of us are working from home and there's multiple calls going on in your house and probably, some young kids that used to be in daycare but are no longer, there, and you've got to sort of take care of them at home. We've had to innovate in noise cancellation technology, AI-based technology that can actually remove like dogs barking or babies crying from the the audio channel, so that you can actually have a productive meeting. I mean, so that's just a good example of technology areas we're investing in. We're also, some of the ad hoc interactions that we were talking about, where you just walk up to a whiteboard with another coworker and start sort of, drawing something out and brainstorming. I mean, that whole sort of brainstorming part of what you would do if you were in the office, that is very hard now to sort of, do in a remote setting. So we're certainly investing more in how do we make whiteboarding and sort of that much easier than it is today. I mean, we have a whiteboarding capability in BlueJeans right now, and so do some of the other vendors, but there are many more things we can do in areas like that. So this is two examples of innovation. I mean, we're doing a lot more even on the infrastructure, which I can talk about. But, John, if you wanted to sort of add anything there.
Yeah, I think, obviously during the pandemic, what we learned is as quickly that workers were shifted home, people that weren't so accustomed to being on video conferencing, Ed, you mentioned your teams were pretty used to it, but a lot of people weren't. And so you'd find things like, oh, gee, I'm on my home Wi-Fi. It's not very good quality. It's kind of bringing down the overall experience for everyone else on that same call, and they want to blame something else. And so what we realized is, hey, we need to put tools in the hands of the end users to see how many bars they have. Hey, it actually looks like your Wi-Fi is the thing that's causing this problem, right? So that there's a little bit more kind of visibility in those sort of different scenarios for the end users, and then give them just more controls over, the muting or the security, all those kinds of things to make sure that with people in far-flung places, let's make sure those calls are secure and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is one thing I want to sort of add on just overall. There's features and functions that we're adding to the product, like, whiteboarding or noise cancellation and those kinds of things. But just the infrastructure itself is something that over the period of those maybe 3 weeks in March, our traffic went up, 300 to 400%. And so we had to deal with that, where while we were largely running a lot of our traffic in our own data centers with a little bit of public cloud usage. So think of it as like 80% in our data centers, 20% in public cloud. That over a period of 1 week flipped around almost to 70% in public cloud, and then and then in data centers. But now, after that increase, I mean, that actually caused a huge increase in our costs. And now what we're doing is we're bringing some of that back into. But in that sort of heat of the moment, we had to sort of find some extra capacity literally within a week. But it was really expensive. Our unit economics changed. We are a SaaS-based service. I mean, you generally buy, you as a customer buy from us, and then it's generally an all-you-can-eat type of plan. But then usage going up 300% and not additional revenue from a particular customer to change the entire unit economics. So the first 2-3 months, we had to sort of move a little more of our traffic to public cloud. Now we're sort of doing the opposite. We're bringing it all back into data centers, so it can actually be more cost effective for us. But we will continue to have this type of a hybrid approach, when it comes to how the infrastructure is done.
So on the security topic a little bit more, can you guys just elaborate a bit more on BlueJeans' security strategy, for your products, et cetera, how you're ensuring that, the communications that that people are having are secure. Like at Digital Realty, for example, we run our board meetings on the platform. And, it's a question that's come up from some of our board members. How do I know that this communication is secure? Can I be assured that the content that's being shared across the platform isn't accessible by someone else? Maybe you could go a bit deeper on that topic.
Yeah. So on the security front, it's the design and architecture of the product, but as well as user training and making them understand all the different controls that are available. So the product itself, one of BlueJeans' strengths was really our ability to work with open standards and interoperability. Now, the interesting thing about building on open standards is you are generally using standards and protocols and network technology that has withstood scrutiny by the open community in terms of standards bodies and other types of open communities. So we are making use of various technologies like SSL and secure RTP, which is the real-time protocol on top of which audio video is run. All of that, these are public standards that are secure. They use state-of-the-art encryption technology and all of that. So on that front, your data, as it traverses over whatever long distances, is using the best encryption technology that is available, similar to any e-commerce site or other types of applications. Now, the area where I think the industry at large sort of tripped up in the early days of the pandemic was in terms of user training and their ability to know all the different features you have on how to lock a meeting, how to share a one-time meeting URL that is not easy for somebody else to sort of join. How to disallow screen sharing by anyone if you want to lock that down. I mean, those types of features and functions we always had in our product. We have continued to enhance it as we sort of got feedback from customers, even in the last 6 months. But these are areas where I think the savvy users who sort of understand all the capabilities are able to use them. Others require a little more training on how to use them. And I think what you saw with some other video conferencing vendors is they had not done that investment. Plus, overnight their products were used by all these K through 12 schools, and they did not use it in a certain manner with the right levels of controls, which sort of tripped them up in some of these things. So it's really like a combination of best-in-class encryption technology and designs and protocols that you use, and then the right level of user training that needs to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, security is definitely top of mind with everybody these days. I don't think there's a day that goes by that someone isn't exposed to a phishing attack or something. I mean, we've seen all sorts of ransomware attacks on different organizations, so it's definitely something that's top of mind with us and our company, and I'm sure many of the viewers that are online today with us. So one other question I had on the technology front was, at Digital, we've actually spent a lot of time really getting our workforce ready, to operate in the cloud. We've been doing so for a long time. Actually, since before I joined the company, even Digital was moving into this space, very heavily with the way we utilize systems and services internally, in addition to what we offer to our customer base. Let's talk a little bit more, Alagu, about, that hybrid IT, if you will, or hybrid cloud, how you guys have utilized it, or how you've seen some of your customers take advantage of this technology of leveraging their internal infrastructure and linking that up with the cloud players at the same time, and how that maybe plays into the use of your platform as well.
Yeah, no, as I was saying earlier, I remember it was the second week of March where, several of our customers started calling us saying they were going to send all of their workforce home. And I think it was a Thursday when one of our large customers called us. And they said, we think, our traffic's going to double because of this. So they called us on a Thursday. Pretty much Friday, their traffic doubled. But then it kept going up, right? And others started calling us. By Monday, just over the weekend, it doubled again or went up another like 70%. And then in the third week of March, between Monday and Thursday, which is on a four-day period, it went up another 250% our traffic. So you can imagine, like now between just 1 week, like we were over 300% or nearly close to 400%. So the only way that we could do that was we had fortunately had this ability to run part of our, we were primarily data center based. With an ability to sort of burst into the cloud. And that really came to our rescue because I can tell you we would have been dead in the water if we didn't have that. So we started sort of bursting into the cloud. And some of the technologies, for some of the tech folks who are listening and sort of understand, I mean, we had done work to, virtualize and be able to run it both in a virtual environment in our data centers as well as in some of the public cloud providers. But we'd also spent a fair amount of time moving all of our software to run in containers. And that is actually helping. That helped during the crisis of being able to sort of take it and easily scale it. But it's also helping right now as we're pulling back some of that traffic back into the data centers. We're not pulling it back into just virtualized environments. We're actually running it in Kubernetes and those types of sort of containerized environments. So we're actually, when we pull that traffic back, we're running a whole Kubernetes infrastructure. Then just like we run the same containers in, some of these public clouds, we can run the same way. So it's really important for hybrid environments like this, for you to be able to manage, as an IT team, as an operations team, manage the deployment, monitoring, and management of your software the same way, no matter where you deploy it. Right? And containers and container technology is helping us hugely. Otherwise we'll have a different set of technologies in every place we deploy it.
Hey, Alagu, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're doing at the edge? That's been another interesting area, both from a security agency perspective.
Through this time, and I think John touched upon it, which is, our, for a video conference like this to work really well, the backbone generally of the network is generally well provisioned, and through this whole pandemic, the backbone of the internet has held up very, very well. It's the edges of the network, it's the last mile of your sort of connectivity that sometimes is the problem, and certainly the last 10 meters of your connectivity. Your Wi-Fi has been a problem. So we are looking, one of the areas we're innovating quite a bit, and this is actually one of the areas where we partnered with Digital Realty as well, is we are pushing our servers, rather than running it in the most centralized data centers, we're pushing the ability to connect at the edges of the network into our customers' networks. So we're making use of different Digital Realty points of presence across the globe, so that we can actually sit there and be able to closely connect with our customers. We're also making use of the larger Verizon network. So as you know, Verizon is in the process of doing 5G rollouts. But as part of 5G rollouts, they're also doing something called mobile edge compute, where close to all of the metropolitan areas, you can actually run some of your, application workloads very close to the cellular network edges. So we're making use of that type of technology as well. We're also making use of CDN technology. Edgecast is a CDN that's part of Verizon. We can actually run soon in all of the 160 sort of Edgecast locations. So those are areas. As we do that, we are able to, even though we cannot control the last 10 meters and the last mile, by being as close as possible to that last 10 meters and last mile, we're able to do some interesting software techniques to improve the quality. Like we can do packet retransmissions and things like that sitting at the edge of the network. And so that's another area there's a fair amount of investment in innovation.
That sounds great. I mean, it's a lot of companies are definitely taking advantage of many of the things that you pointed out as well, and I think it's an exciting time to be in this business for sure. The technology continues to evolve at just an ever more rapid pace, and I think one of maybe the positive things that have come out of this pandemic is just that it's caused us to really look at the technology differently and how we can take advantage of it.
Absolutely, yeah. The amount of the pace of innovation has really gone up. And we've just touched upon a few areas. There's more in AR, VR, and its ability to sort of help us in this remote working situation. There's some interesting computer vision stuff. There's a lot of areas.
Definitely. Well, John and Alagu, I want to thank you guys for joining today and spending some time with our customers and viewers out there. It's been a great session. I wish we had more time because I think we could probably go on here for another hour or so. I would encourage everybody that's online, if you have questions, keep them coming, and we'll do our best to get back to you as quickly as we can with the answers or some comments of our thoughts around that. And again, I want to thank John and Alagu for joining us today and all of you for tuning in. So stay safe, everybody, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking, and entertainment. joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking and entertainment. Thanks for joining. Head back to the main page to access more sessions, networking and entertainment.